Thank you, Rob. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and share a few thoughts about Eggland's Best and specialty egg production. So Ariel had asked me to talk about industry perspective on of how functional foods will or are impacting systems. And so I said, well, are you referring to like the production systems or like the human body system, how it affects consumer health? And she said, well, go for a little of both. So we're going to start out with the operational part and then go into the consumer health side. So don't see it changing on this, but so a little bit of Eggland's Best history. In the late 80s, one of the original founders of Eggland's Best he had just made a bit of money off an investment, and he was kind of contemplating what would be his next business venture, and he was doing some traveling in Japan, and he noticed the Hikari egg. That's an iodine-enriched egg, and he was very intrigued by that and initially tried to become a franchise of that company, but due to some restrictions by FDA on the iodine content, that didn't work out. So the original founders began development of a nutritionally enriched egg. And so the first product launch was in 1992. I started in 1996, so missed some of those earlier years. But Eggland's Best is a co-op. It's owned by 50% by 11 franchisee egg producers and 50% by Land O'Lakes. There are 60 processing plants that we work with and 450 flocks of hens, over 300 of which are contract offline plants. So one of the first things that Eggland's Best faced in starting to do specialty egg production is that the producers were very much focused on least cost formulation, and so in producing diets with optimum nutrition at the least cost and no extra fortification for egg enrichment. And so that had to be transitioned over to investing more in the feed, having higher cost feed, and offering more to the consumer on the nutritional profile of the eggs. Many years ago, I was with the then president CEO of Eggland's Best, and somebody asked him, what do you really sell? He said, I know obviously you sell eggs, but what do you really sell? And he said, we sell permission to eat eggs. And so for many years, of course, eggs were looked down upon nutritionally and from a cardiovascular perspective. And so the objective was to try to alleviate some of those concerns and turn people's focus to looking at eggs as a nutritionally favorable product. So that was one of the challenges, to try to create a product that gave people permission to eat eggs, to create unity among producers nationwide, producers who were competitors otherwise, to establish a culture of excellence for product quality, and to maintain uniformity of quality and nutrition throughout the United States. So the operational standards, the expectations of Eggland's Best, vitamin enrichment, B2, B5, B12, DE, folate, selenium, lutein, and omega-3s. And in order to verify the nutritional content, we require that producers send samples to our laboratory to validate claims. We don't allow antibiotics or any waste products from human food preparation. We have stricter egg grading standards, require the Safe Quality Food, Global Food Safety Initiative certification for food safety and quality, kosher certification, which means zero tolerance for blood spots, animal welfare certification through United Egg Producers, American Humane, Humane Farm Animal Care, or for Walmart and Sam's Club producers, the Walmart, or it's the SQF, Primary Animal Production Program. And of course, if for the product that is organic, a lot of auditing and certification that goes on there. And then many vendor requirements. So some of our producers say they average one audit per week on, and so that's quite an extensive part of the program. So we spend a fair amount of time and effort in employee training, instilling an above and beyond culture of excellence, and imposing on them demanding standards, doing things in a different way that they're accustomed to, and like adjusting their grader for a premium pack. And so I mentioned annual meetings. USDA grading is a critical importance of the important aspect of the program, because we can't be at all places at all times, but USDA can. We do feed mill, farm and processing plant audits, and then 3 or 4 times a year we have a group that does nationwide retail product quality audits, and they retrieve samples and send to our lab for analysis. So challenges that are involved with specialty egg production in the feed mill side: sourcing unusual ingredients, certifications and regulatory requirements for some ingredients. Bin space, storage space is always limited, and so it's a challenge in requiring additional ingredients. Feed handling, segregation, tracing of specialty feed. And then for some ingredients, you have a considerably shorter shelf life with some sensitive ingredients like pigmenters. There are some challenges with efficiency of flock utilization. If you have a high-priced premium feed and you only utilize maybe 30% of the eggs, you get a premium price for that product. That's going to be a significant challenge. So that's one thing the producers have to keep in mind. Shorter flock age limits kind of presents a challenge into their flock scheduling. And of course, if housing changes with the type of product, cage-free, free-range, pasture-raised, that kind of thing, then additional challenges there. And again, on the operational systems, collection of shipment of eggs each week that we require, that becomes a significant expense. And then having the additional packaging requirements for the cartons and the shipping boxes. With Eggland's Best, we have the stamping aspect, and that requires a lot of additional labor. But if anything ever goes wrong with a lot of eggs when they're graded, like if the blood spots happen to be too high or too many cracks or something like that, and the lot gets rejected, you can't use those eggs for just regular generic eggs because they have a stamp on there. And so and you can't run them through the grader again to reprocess them to get a higher quality level because of those stamps. And so they just have to go to a breaker. So that's another consideration as well. And of course, there's additional expense for marketing, advertising, promotion, getting patents, and doing clinical trials. And with Eggland's Best, we have our own laboratory. We have a nutritional analytical laboratory and then a microbiological laboratory. A lot of expense there. And for all of the tests that we do in our lab, we also send samples to outside labs to verify our results to make sure we're on target. So on the quality side, we test for HA units in our lab: shell strength, yolk index, yolk color, the yolk, the tail and membrane strength, oxidative stability, heavy metals, glyphosate, animal byproducts, antibiotic residues. And then also we have equipment to test for antibodies in eggs to verify that our salmonella vaccination has actually been effective. We maintain a research facility and flock of hens there. We've tested, in my 28 years, a little over 350 feed supplements, many things to try to improve flavor in eggs, and just a variety of things to improve egg or shell quality. And of those 350, my 2 favorites that I think are the most important are definitely increasing vitamin E and using organic selenium. have the biggest influence on the product quality. And then we also do contracted research. And one of the challenges is as you become more and more successful, you have more and more people who try to pull you down and attack the company and give negative publicity. And just an example of things in social media, this one influencer, she was talking about different brands of eggs, and she talked about Eggland's Best, that the Eggland's Best is really bad because we use antibiotics. Well, that's one of the main things in our package, that we don't use antibiotics. But the interesting thing was she favored a certain brand because they only make their hens lay 1 to 2 eggs per day, whereas all of the others make them lay 10 eggs per day, which was, I got thinking about the feed conversion, 1/4 pound of feed to 1 1/4 of eggs per day. That's pretty impressive. We're still working on that one. And then since Eggland's Best is a prominent brand, if there's anything in the media, any kind of publicity negative, it seems like they always want to show a photo of Eggland's Best product or a truck or something like that, even if it has nothing to do with us. But difficulties mastered are opportunities won. And so overall, all of those challenges that we require of our producers end up to be favorable for them. So their benefits, Eggland's Best tends to moderate the cycles of profitability that are inherent in other egg production. There's a satisfaction of providing added benefits to consumers, something that has a genuine benefit. And one of our general managers said that when they started doing Eggland's Best production, he noticed that all of his crew started to do everything to a higher level and become more perfection focused on everything they did. And he said even at home he found that he was doing things differently because of the efforts for instilling a culture of excellence. So now shifting to the other side, we've talked about the production side, now going more to the consumer health side. So one thing that I've really enjoyed about Eggland's Best is that we don't try to put anyone else down. We say all eggs are good, we try to make them even better, but never take a negative approach on that. All eggs are excellent sources of nutrition. So you can, I think of this in a political year, how some people who are running for office, they'll talk about their own things that they have to offer, and then others just seem to completely focus on putting down their competition or their opponent. And that's one thing that we never do with our company. And I've noticed in Mexico that it's even illegal to put unfounded fear in consumers through advertising, unfounded fear in a mainstream food supply. And I think that's a very good thing to keep in mind. So can fortified eggs really make a difference? If you eat an egg or two a day, is that really going to make a difference in your overall diet? And my perspective on that is if you're choosing the healthier alternative in or the healthier option in everything that you do when you're shopping, then eggs, specialty eggs fit in very nicely with that dietary plan. And we often get asked or maybe questioned, is fortifying eggs really natural? Or is that an unnatural thing? If you look at eggs, free-range eggs, some work from Artemis Simopoulos, she found that in Greek free-ranging chickens that the eggs produced had about 10 times the normal level of omega-3s. In Mother Earth News, if you go on their site, they reference, I think it's 14 different projects they did on analyzing pasture-raised eggs and found all of these nutritional advantages to them. So in some ways, I think the higher levels of nutrition are actually more from a historical perspective, are actually probably more normal or natural than maybe some other eggs, the way they're produced. And so the challenge is with the free range thing is that chickens, sometimes we think that more space outside is better, but chickens were not, they were not derived from prairie chickens. The open, wide open spaces is not always appealing to them. They're derived from jungle fowl, and their habitat is forest and forest edge. And so if you don't, like in the picture on the top there, if you don't provide some kind of cover outside, they will stick to that sort of. Somebody made a comment on something posted on the internet saying that you can take the fowl out of the jungle, but you can't take the jungle out of the fowl. That they have that inner jungle fowl thing, that they want to be in that forest and forest edge. They get out in the open. They have that a sense of vulnerability, and so they tend to stay close to the building. So if you're relying on forage to provide your nutritional enhancement, that can be a real challenge, because I've seen figures where people say only like 10 to 20% of the chickens actually go outdoors. And then, of course, in the wintertime, the ground's covered. You can't rely on forage for the nutritional enhancement. If you do provide a lot of outdoor cover, then they do readily go outdoors. So, excuse me. So, if you were to look at this from like a prepared cereal perspective, you wouldn't ever see a package that said fortified with 11 essential vitamins and minerals in 20% of the product from March through October. So if you, when you have only a few hens going outdoors, that then it only influences a small portion of the eggs, and then of course if it's seasonal, then that doesn't provide very good assurance for the consumer. So consumers expect and deserve year-round consistency of nutritional value, and that creates an opportunity for fortification. And yolk color, that's another thing too, that you can't really depend just on outdoor access. Not all the hens will go outdoors all the time and in all seasons, so have to fortify with some kind of a natural pigmenter. And if you look at the brands that have the really, really dark yolk color, analyze those, there's a lot of capsanthin in them, which comes from paprika, and so it shows that they're relying very heavily on additional fortification rather than just outdoor access. So there are many nutrients that cannot be increased in an egg if you change the content in the feed, but there are some that have efficient response to dietary change. And some of them have very low efficiency. You really have to put a lot of supplementation in the feed in order to get an increase in the eggs. Some are more efficient. Some things that you can do to improve on the efficient, or some things that affect the efficiency, are stress, gut health issues, flock age, seasonal variability of ingredients, like the lutein content in corn, ambient temperature and feed intake. And then another challenge too is nutrition. There are variation in analytical labs when you're trying to test what your product is, what level you're achieving in the eggs. Various labs are widely different on that, so you have to do really a lot of testing to really know your product in all regions of the country and in all seasons of the year. And we have a feed supplement that we use that has a 90-day shelf life on it. And if you use conventional minerals in that supplement, then a lot of those are pro-oxidants, and they'll tend to degrade the sensitive nutrients in your premix. And so if you use organic minerals in place of those, that can reduce that loss of those nutrients during storage. And then enzymes and probiotics and things like that can significantly improve the transfer of nutrients from feed to egg. Advantages of obtaining nutrients from eggs for the consumer, bioavailability of nutrients. A good example is lutein, that studies showed that you get 3 times more benefit or increase in blood from consuming, getting lutein through eggs than you would through like a dietary supplement or spinach. And there's a very low risk of overdosing when you of any kind of a vitamin when you get that from eggs. Eggs also, for those who have digestive issues, eggs provide a very easy to digest source of nutrition, and eggs are always gluten-free, so they're compatible with celiac conditions, and they tend to moderate blood sugar. So going with specific nutrients, I mentioned the Hikari egg in Japan that's iodine enriched, and some of their claims are flavor improvement, lipid metabolism enhancement, blood cholesterol reduction, and hypoallergenic effects. Vitamin E, definitely one of the most important because of the protection it gives to the egg in reducing off flavors and protecting nutrients in the eggs, but then for the consumer, benefits of reducing oxidative damage to cells and to tissues. Omega-3s, important for brain health, cardiovascular health, vision, and other things as well. And one thing about the omega-3s, at Eggland's Best, we have what I consider to be a very moderate increase in omega-3s, just 125 milligrams per egg as compared to about 50 in a regular egg. But even at that level, one of our lab technicians calculated the difference in access and getting DHA from the average 19 pounds of seafood consumed in a year compared to 280 eggs in a year, and you get more DHA out of the eggs and at a lower cost, and eggs are often more universally palatable to consumers. Some people just do not want seafood. Selenium, another important one of the most important for egg quality. It protects nutrients in eggs, preserves egg quality during storage, helps keep the high units, the albumin quality higher, increases the yolk membrane strength, helps slow down the movement of water from albumin into yolk during storage, which helps reduce the risk of yolk breakage when the eggs are used, and also increases the content not only of the yolk, but the organic version increases selenium and albumin as well. And benefits, a lot of benefits of selenium for cellular and tissue health and for immunity and other things. Vitamin D, it's well known for the calcium metabolism and bone health, but also for immunity and anti-inflammatory effects. Lutein is, I think, best known for reducing the risk of age-related macular degeneration of the eye, but also is important for maintaining skin hydration and elasticity and protecting against ultraviolet rays, and also contributes to the overall antioxidant activity of the egg and antioxidant capacity of the consumer. Folate is another important one, important for heart health, for reducing homocysteine, for brain health, also anti-inflammatory, and then it reduces the risk of neural tube defects. One challenge with folate is that FDA only allows fortification for certain foods, mainly grain products, because they're trying to avoid a lot of fortification that would cause an excess in people's diets. So that one, there's not really a great option there. Vitamin A is a real oddity in the formation, fortification world, I guess, is in that most nutrients, if you increase them in the egg, within about 10 days, 8 to 10 days, you have pretty much your maximum level that you're going to achieve in an egg. With vitamin A, it takes about 8 to 13 weeks. Something has to fill up within the hen before it starts spilling over into an egg, so it takes a long, long time to come up in eggs. And then vitamin A is a real antagonist on vitamin E. If you get it too high, it really drives down your vitamin E. B vitamins are important for converting food to energy, and then have important influence on cells and tissues as well. Eggland's Best has conducted 3 clinical trials in this effort to give people permission to eat eggs and to show that they're not the cardiovascular negative impacts as are sometimes feared. We've done 3 clinical trials, all essentially the same, where the participants ate 12 eggs per week, and there were no adverse effects on any of the cardiovascular risk factors, on lipid profiles, numerical improvement in reducing LDL and raising LDL, but not statistically significant, but definitely no negatives. There are many other clinical trials that have been conducted. I'll just mention Dr. Sarai's test on designer eggs. They found that designer eggs would increase the levels of alpha tocopherol, lutein, and DHA in plasma. The Canadian designer egg, high levels of omega-3s and tocopherol resulted in increases in blood serum cholesterol increases in blood serum omega-3s and tocopherol, and then reduced the LDL and increased HDL in the eggs. So that's my references. And so just going back to this same question, can fortified eggs really make a difference? Yes. If you're choosing the healthier alternative in your diet, there are legitimate advantages to using specialty eggs, fortified eggs. That is all.